Well, hello everyone. I'm Milenko. I am artist at Strange Loop Games. I'm in charge of the art direction. This time I want to do something a little different than your usual streams. Basically, usually we show the game and then talk about the game. And this time around, I actually being in charge of art and looking after stuff like that, I would like to take you on a tour of the art of Eco, where it started, how it went, where we ended up so far. So let's start. I originally prepared a little bit of show and tell. So let's start with the art pack. This is something we did back in 2015. The game has been going since 2014. It started as a little prototype, and then we started building on top of that. Eventually, I think in 2015 we ran Kickstarter, and it was fairly successful, so we started making the game. Audio good? Just quickly, Dennis? Can you hear me? Sweet, awesome. Anyway, so let's start. When we were doing Kickstarter campaign, one of the perks that people got was the art pack that came from the art team. So let's start with showing some bits from that. So main reason I'm showing this is to kind of get the idea where the project started, how it developed, and you can see the progression of everything we've done in the last 5 years, I guess, 5 and some. So before when we're talking about the game, we started kind of trying to visualize what it could potentially look like. So we did this kind of cool big painting that excited everyone and gave people ideas, and hopefully excited the people interested in playing the game. So this was the first big image we did for Eco. In the art document itself is compilation that kind of walks people through process. This was done back in 2015, so basically it contains all the hopes and dreams that we all had about the game. So yeah, when we were talking about the project initially, we started doing little sketches, trying to imagine what the world would look like, pen and paper being the cheapest. It was all like the preliminary sketches, the rough things, what would the world look like, what would inspire us to work on the game, some animal designs, I guess more sketches, just to make it exciting to everyone. We were thinking about how is the game going to work, how we're gonna build stuff in the game, how the game itself is going to be built. So we dreamt about little environments and little worlds that can be put together using little blocks and bits and bobs. As you can see, most of this conceptual phase of developing art for something does not necessarily fully translate into the final product, but for an artist it's always fun to dream. Yeah, at one point we started thinking about curving the world a little bit to give it a bit of a unique feel. Originally the whole thing was based on it was based on Minecraft, the way they put their world together, because we wanted it to be a voxel world built from blocks, but at the same time we wanted it to be a like its own thing, so it doesn't really look like Minecraft ripoff. And when I think about Minecraft, it's not, you know, Minecraft itself became a genre, much like platformers became genre, and then, you know, like first-person shooters and all these other things. So it's just you use the mechanics in a particular way to tell your own story or to build your own world. At the time, it was fairly convenient to use the block world to achieve results we wanted to achieve. So we had some thoughts about making it different, you know, like creating more interesting. I'm not sure if it's more interesting because Minecraft in itself is pretty fun and interesting. We just wanted to explore which direction we can take at the time, I guess. So we started designing animals. You can compare these to the current in-game critters, but yeah, like it starts here and then it ends up where the game is currently. So that's how it works. So we had bunnies and cows and wolves and ducks and all these cool things. Also, we started looking at the worlds and the ways to put them together. I'll zoom in a bit so you can see it better. They're all like really fast chicken sketches, just to get the ideas out, and then, you know, like people can talk about it, discuss things, see what works, see what doesn't work, and you know, that's how it goes. We were trying different styles as well, you know, like more cartoony, less cartoony, what would work with the blocks. Thing with the game is that, yeah, basically the whole world is built by, like, it's built from 1 by 1 meter blocks, and as such, you know, like you have to make all the other things fit with that basic concept. So we wanted to steer away from realistic looking things and basically, yeah, like explored different parts, how to make it chunky, how to make it work with the world itself. So sometimes we would go a little bit more cartoony, the other time we would go a little bit more realistic, but at all times we were trying to make everything come together as nice as possible. Next one. Yeah. The other thing we're looking at is what would characters look like with everything else considered in the game. So we started doing different concepts and different sketches. So yeah, I guess if you look at the avatars that are currently in the game, this is where they started. Next thing, it was fun. Initial name of the project was Citizen, and then slowly from prototype stages we started moving away from Citizen, and eventually game we decided to call game Eco. It's I guess self-explanatory. Some more sketches of the world and how it could look, I guess. In the art pack, yeah, like we wanted to engage community, so there was this black and white image, so I guess it still exists somewhere. So if people are kind of interested in you know, like a sketching, painting, doing things, this can be colored, and it would be fun to see different people color this piece and see what, you know, like what they come up with. And then we started prototyping bits and bobs, you know, like the way blocks come together, the way our creatures work with the blocks, different types of wood, stuff like that. First shots of the game, once we started putting prototype together, it looked pretty, you know, like pretty generic, and as you can see, you know, it was very basic, and it was a little bit cluttered, and there are all these kind of weird tiled bits and bobs. I guess it looks much more like Minecraft in these early shots than it, you know, like that, than what it ended up being at this current time. We're putting different things together. First animals we built for the game were elk and orca. I don't know if some people still remember orca back in the think it was after the Kickstarter campaign, people could get prototype of the game and take it for a spin. So there was, if you walk to the beach, you could see a whale jumping out of water. We're still kind of thinking about putting it back in. Different considerations when we're talking about user interface. I will come to user interface a bit, like a bit later in the stream, show you where we got at. But at this point in time, this was really early. These were kind of more classic approaches we had to displaying user interface on the game. Then when we started Kickstarter campaign, oh yeah, that's the other thing, I guess. The art team of Eco is fairly small. We have 4 people full-time working on the game, and then 5th person is a friend of mine, awesome animator and great artist. His name is Lachlan Craig. He's from Australia. We used to work together, and I always loved his somewhat naive but very unique and beautifully painted sketches. So when we were doing Kickstarter campaign, I was really busy with some other stuff, so we asked Lachlan to do a bunch of paintings so we can illustrate Kickstarter page with. And these are some of his works. You can see it looks rough-ish, but it has this like a really nice naive style that kind of works on its own. And so he did like amazing amount of work within like a month or 2 before we kicked off with Kickstarter. So hopefully it's enjoyable for people watching as it is for me to look at this stuff. He actually went like really deep into, like all kinds of aspects of the game even before any of this was built or made. So that kind of gave ideas to everyone. Yeah, and then he started. Yeah, then towards the end of the thing, he started doing these really complex, like very, very detailed paintings that I just loved then and now. Yeah, look at this scene. It has everything. Yeah, very nice. And then he started dreaming about the future, and I guess hopefully it didn't go too far. At some point down the line, it would be awesome to like have advanced civilizations built where we can have like a hovercrafts and like amazing futuristic technology and bits and bobs. Ecological dwellings where one is with nature. That was really nice too. I really like his art style. It is really fun to look at. He did more. Yeah, these like a huge environment paintings that really sell the idea, I guess. I'll just show you one by one some of them, I guess. I don't want to drag too far. Yeah. How's it going so far? Is there... Okay, seems we're doing well. I know the timing of the stream is not the greatest because it was really hard to time. Well, like I think it's like we're trying to cater for everybody, but 3 main continents would be United States, well, America, North America, South America, Europe. But I live in Brisbane, Australia, so time difference is just too big. So currently on my end it's 5 p.m. and I think it's morning in Europe, and it's midnight or somewhere close to that in America. So like thanks for people bothering to stay around and watch. Hopefully there are some around doing it. Okay, this is this was like a doom and gloom sequence, because from the beginning there was this idea about meteor threatening the world, and people having to build, you know, like the technology up to reach the point where they can like deflect the meteor. But Lachlan spent a considerable amount of time like contemplating the destruction of the world, so it's very it's pretty epic when you look at it. You know, a lot of messy stuff, but yeah, like there's an image of hope here, where hopefully the end game is building this huge laser that blows up the meteor and saves the world. How you continue with the game once you save the world, it's up to you. Hopefully people will figure it out. Another nice dream that Lachlan had, and you know, like I hope again, and I don't see why not, we could have it in the game, is underwater cities, and you know, like a completely different kind of level of ecological, I guess, you know, like a coexistence. He also looked at, you know, like gameplay elements like hunting and you know, like basically all these different what would you call them, mechanisms in the game that you can utilize to survive. He did I really like these, the little doom and gloom sketches of like ecological disaster, or you know, like man-made disaster where people pay dearly for their decisions. That was cool. Another thing he did, I just like at this point I'm just talking about his art, is the funding tree. Like when we had the Kickstarter campaign, we had this large image at the bottom of the page where, as our funding kept going up, we kept on promising people more and more development of the game. I'll move to this one. So that's the beginning, and again, you know, like as an artist, buried treasures are pretty fun things to consider. So hopefully we will be able to plug some of this in the game. So occasionally, if you dig somewhere, you might find like a interesting, cool, nice surprise, maybe like treasure or dinosaur bones, or you know, like things like that. And then obviously, you know, like we kept on going up and more, and eventually we got to the space age technology and things. Kickstarter funding never really got us there. We got somewhere like I would say like 3/5 up, but the game is, you know, like game is popular enough, and we, you know, like hopefully doing well enough, and hopefully we'll do even better down the line, so we will be able to dream about this upper part of the image. And yeah, like also we had some I guess like a Kickstarter supporters would get rewards, and we gave them, like we designed all these cool badges to give them. I'll show some of them later once we finish with this. It was, you know, like it was fun thing to do. Hopefully like it was fun thing for people to get, which they could use throughout the game and use it as their little recognizable icon that would tell other players that they actually contributed at the stage and they believed in the game, where it was, you know, like you have to convince people that you're going to make something and it'll be good enough for them to give you their money. And we had a lot of people who actually committed to the game and supported us and keep on supporting us, I guess. So thank you to all the Kickstarter supporters, and hi to all of you. And yeah, then so this was the end of the art pack. Last thing we did was, as you can see, this is like a meteor destruction sequence, and it's very very final, I guess. So this was world as it is, things breaking through the atmosphere, smashing on the ground, and then basically blowing your world up, which is very doomy and gloomy, but it's kind of good motivator to keep progressing and like make sure you never see this scene in the game. Some research sketches, laying things out, working with, like working on eco was really challenging for an artist and artists who used to like we used to making regular first-person games, run-of-the-mill games, because there's so many things that you can control when making like regular game, I guess, versus eco being like a bag of Legos that people can put together any way they want. Also challenges presented with blockiness of the world. So I guess you have these 1 meter blocks that build the world, but at the same time you have to like move around the world, and you have animals that kind of are part searching and trying to live in their habitats. So getting them down 1 meter blocks, making them walk up and down, and like making the world, kind of selling the immersion of the world is a bit harder when you have like 1 meter blocks. So we're still figuring this out. Like we got somewhere, and like it works so far, but at the same time it could be better, I guess, and we will try to keep on making it better, and like making the world more believable, more fun to look at, and also like making the game better to play, I guess. Avatars are always like many iterations that we went through. We tried many different things, so these are more realistic looking ones, different body shapes, different equipment, different things to do. However, it all has to work together. So making the game the way it is, some things just wouldn't plug in and wouldn't look good. At the same time, putting too much focus on one aspect of the game would kind of take away from the others. So we ended up with generic but recognizable avatars that should work with the rest of the world. Let me show you some other stuff. If we look, I think this is year 0. Yeah, so some of these are GIF images, some of these are just screen grabs. I compile them from prototype of the game, and then I will go through and show screen grabs from later versions of the game. Yeah, old pics. Jafar. Hey Jafar. Thanks for hanging around. Okay, so here we go. First 3 animals we did. You can see that. What is it? Yeah, so you can see these are GIFs, so they're a bit artifacty, but yeah, like you can see the really stiff animations. You can see like really chunky animals. You can see really kind of blocky textures. At that stage, that was what we thought of the game as it was. We had to consider things like scope of the game, the amount of people. Like we were worried we will not have enough funding, so it might end up being like 3 or 4 people building the game, and we didn't dare to dream bigger at that point in time, because we wanted to kind of make sure that we can deliver what we started. As we kept on building the game, and as we kept on like surviving, I guess, we kept on polishing things, iterating things, like building the game, making it the best we can. So this is, yeah, like early animals, early world. As you can see, it was like very plain, very kind of cartoony-ish textures. You can see our trees were basically like cylinders with some texture slapped on them. Foliage was basically these little what do they call them, squircles, square circles, like beveled balloons, I don't know, you can call them whatever. So that was the initial promise we made for the game when we started building it. You can see also like at the bottom, so I guess yeah, like the early user interface with its painterliness and chunkiness. Sometimes I actually wish we could have, wish we stuck with that, but we moved on, we polished everything. The other thing is, like, when you make improvement in one aspect of visuals, then you have to go back and revise the other aspects of the visuals to kind of, you constantly improving and then going back and bringing the rest of the assets, which would be like game objects that people use, like tables and bricks and, like animals, everything. Like, so you move one part of the game up and then you, sorry, and then you kind of keep on bringing the other elements of the game up to the same standard. So yeah, like early game was very, very basic looking. This was chopping the tree back in the day. It was actually, like, even back in the day, even this was making us excited and encouraging us to like keep moving forward. Some more screenshots. Yep, chopping tree, the fly around the world. I think this must have been like mid 2015. We worked on the game for like 4 or 5 months at that point in time, and there was, I think, maybe just 4 people total working on everything. So we had very limited resources and we had to do the best we could with what we had. Yeah, I mentioned the art team before and then I kind of slipped. So yeah, the art team is 4 people plus Lachlan, who I talked about before. He is, again, like, quickly back about him. So he is self-employed artist. He likes his freedom, so we use him as a contractor. At this point in time, he's not doing concept art. He's also awesome animator. So all the latest animations on all the critters, animals, avatars are done by him. And all things considered, I think he did awesome job. Other than Lachlan and other than myself being an art director, but I also do, like, I'm art director, but because our team is so small, it's not really, direction is in a sense where I just make sure that other people's work is kind of on par with everything we want to do with the game, and kind of giving ideas and steering people in the right direction. But other than that, I'm also a 3D artist, user interface artist, concept artist, all those things. Another artist that's closest to me on the team is Rob. He's also from Australia. He's been with Strange Loop for maybe 7 years now, on and off. He's also concept artist, like, he does user interface, sprite art. He also does like 3D models and like textures and all those bits and bobs. Then we have Keegan. Keegan is started on as an artist. I think he's been with us like 5 years as well. And then it's interesting how, you don't end up like on the path that you started on. So Keegan, because we had a need for technical artists and like somebody to look after transferring art into the game, he started picking tasks in that direction. So currently Keegan is he rarely does like a finished art for the game, but he does, he does plug all the assets in. He figures out all the systems, does all the scripting that make stuff work in the game. And he also somehow, like, organically, he got involved in the game design, so he makes a lot of contributions to the game design itself and direction the game is taking, and figuring out different systems and then breaking down the art elements that we will need for that. So that's his main job. And then the final guy we have on our team is Flo. He came from community. I think he had his own server running Eco, and he was doing mods. And then last year, I think I guess he reached the point in his development where he was sufficiently skilled to become a professional artist. So we took him on the team, and he is mostly doing 3D art for the game at this point. I should have probably scrolled through more of these while I was talking, but hey, you live and you learn. This was the round world. From the beginning, I guess we had the idea to make the world sphere and to have that curvature to the whole thing. So yeah, first animations on elk. Was it elk? I don't know what it is. I think it's elk. We call it elk. Yeah. Yeah, world was very simplistic at that point in time. That grass was just really noisy and annoying. And yeah. Anyway, then we moved to introducing new elements to the world. So once we started figuring out what the tree foliage is going to look like, we started building these little prototypes, plugging them into the world to see what they look like. Did some fern, did some grass, everything started looking a little better. And then, you know, clearly from that we started improving all the other elements like lighting and you know, like the materials we used for terrain. We wanted to get away from tiled textures, so I think in Minecraft, I'm not sure if it's still the case, but every block has a texture, and then when you connect another block, that texture kind of tiles onto the next block. So when you look at the world, it kind of looks chunky and looks like a lot of things look repeated. So we decided to use a different method to break it up a bit and make it a little bit more seamless. Yeah, some more screenshots from that time. Then let's jump to the phase 2. When we started building the world, applying lighting and all the other cool effects. So as you can see, world looks richer, you know, has more volume, has more lighting, it's more lush, it's more fun to look at. One thing we decided, like at no point we wanted to make anything realistic, because that causes more problems than it solves. So we tried to keep the blocky feel to the game and kind of keep it chunky, but still make it pretty so people enjoy playing it. Latest ones, these are just like Keegan's lighting play shots for the city he's kind of built in the game. So yeah, like a night light, some moonlight, all the things. I think he talked about that in his own stream last week or a couple of weeks back, so I won't dwell on that. I have other things to show. Jesus, it's already been half an hour. I should have timed it better. Let me just quickly show you some more like early UI stuff. This was Robert's work back in the day, just sketches for user interface, and that's where we started. We had some like crazy old-fashioned ideas back in the day as well. It didn't really came to fruition. We had like stained glass and using fabrics and textiles and all these like industrial things. And first game we made was called Vessel, and it was all mechanical, and they had all these like little cogs spinning and moving. So we wanted, like initially we were thinking about kind of keeping that as a Strange Loop Games theme, so we would kind of see the silhouettes of little cogs in the background. So as you scroll through up and down, like almost like we wanted to make it like from real world. But then as the game kind of developed, so we tried different backgrounds, different setups. And then yeah, like the game development kind of started galloping at some point, and we didn't have much time to invest in building these like unique user interfaces. So we started with set of sprites that could technically be used to build anything, and that stuck with the game up until last year. Last year when we started working on 9.0 or 0.9, whatever it is, we started looking at prototype user interface, and we started concepting new looks. So these are mock-up sketches that we did before we actually built the interface. So even these are not representative of the final look, but at the same time they're kind of, like like this initial stage that led to the current look that we have for our user interface. So we still tried to implement some like from real world, like fabric textures and like a paper textures, and make it kind of relate to in real world bits, but at the same time kind of make it technical. Also the number of user interfaces ballooned ridiculously, and we have all these like many things to consider when building those, one of them being functionality. So it can't be just all pretty, we actually have to make everything work with everything else, and complexity of the game increased as well. So the user interfaces also got very complex and intricate. Hopefully people don't find too many problems with them, and they make it easy for you to kind of navigate through the game. Okay, how are we going? Oh yeah, Orcas will be back. We hopefully I can promise that, because we have this big update that we are kind of chiseling at. It's not in 0.9, but we will have like a marine biology and like underwater plants and marine stuff, which is actually good segue. Let's move to I think I showed enough of this stuff. I over prepared with many kind of cool images. Let's just do I have anything else to show like that I will regret not showing this time around? So yeah, let me finish with these avatars, and then I'll show you some of the aspects, some of the new assets that we're working on that won't make it into 9, but people know they're coming, so they kind of get excited about it. So yeah, I showed you those early avatar exploration designs with like different outfits, different clothes, different body shapes. It led to stage 1, which was at one point. These are like they're looking lame and generic, but at the time it was done on purpose, because we didn't want to focus on avatars. We wanted to focus on like the game itself, like ecology and systems and civilization building and cooperation, all these things. So we decided to keep avatars really simple. These are like just a bunch of quick sketches where you can, like it's a basic looking avatar, but like changing basic things, you can customize it and make a lot of like unique changes. We even went with like weird colors and all these other things, so to allow people to do whatever they want. Eventually I think we toned it down because it just didn't look good in the game, like it didn't blend well with the rest of the world. Even though I still think that current avatars are the ones needing the most upgrade with the whole stuff. Yeah, stage 2 I showed those. So stage 3 is like first write up documents, and this is where the current avatar was born. So we started with kind of trying to figure out how to make them a little bit more ambiguous, so we don't have to deal with like different situations we might end up in where it's not really relevant or important to the game. So we went with like masculine and feminine, and like tweaks that people can do, like with same thing like presented in different ways, so keep as many people happy as possible. Eventually that became early 3D models, early avatars. I don't know if any people play the games when these guys roamed the world, but this is like a first 3D plug avatar that we had in the game. So there was like a female version. This is like base version that would lead to both male and female. This is the max mesh that ends up being plugged in the game, and then the game picks based on your selection, like picks one of each. Like in this image, obviously, like this is avatar with all the clothes and all the equipment they can have. More sketches. Oh yeah, this one was like a 3D version of the paper sketch one, so you can see all the different layers of customization that you can do with a single simple thing, I guess. Okay, and stage 3 we did like we invested more work in the whole thing, and then yeah, at some point down the line we started tweaking them and improving them so we can do so yeah, they match the world better. I'm actually currently going through, and I'll show you, like we should probably start wrapping up. It's been a while now, and people get bored pretty quickly with these things. So let me switch to the next thing. Hopefully, can you see the Max interface? Anyone around? Dennis? Hopefully it's switched. So yeah, this is the stage. Our avatars were, it was a system we were working on for a while, and then we had to move on to other things, so they stopped where they were at that point in time, and they kept on being used in the game as such. So at this point in time, we decided for 9.0, hopefully we'll be able to plug this in, is we started adding like a detail and normal maps and you know, like a shininess maps to the avatars. Let me just quickly, as you can see, avatars are made from many pieces. Gee, avatar, headless avatar. Let me just first find things to remove. We'll get rid of these and then put some underwear on. That's the wrong model. This is the right one. Place shirt with torso. Yeah, so this way, and then you hide shoes. Where's the shoes? Jesus, I know it's the boots, even though they're shoes. It's just naming convention. So yeah, so base female avatar. We added a little bit of normal map to it. We're still figuring out what to do with the hair, how to make it fun but keep it simple. Oh yeah, also maybe this will be fun. So let me just put some hair on her. How's this? Probably not. Maybe this one is better. Okay, so yeah, like short hair, but check this out. So huh? We added these expressions so they can probably, like, the idea was that they, you know, like they're displayed in the game, and then even if you like type frowny face in chat, then your avatar kind of gets the frowny face, surprised, you know. Max is like, I'm using 3D Studio Max as my main, like a 3D modeling software, so it's not very good. Like when it goes like a you know, like a display window kind of spazzes a bit before it goes back into correct lighting. So every time I start moving frames, lighting changes. So yeah, you can get angry, huh? And then we also have like talking mouth frames. So when people chat in the game, hopefully their avatar's mouth are moving so other people can see them talking. It's just like a funny little touch to add to the whole thing. Then let me switch to the male avatar. So no male avatar. There you go. Now, yeah, Why not? That's fine. All good. Let's switch to hips. What was the other thing? Is yeah, torso. So yeah, so here's yeah, avatar body. Yep. So yeah, so here we have like a male version, I guess, of the avatar. So let's quickly yep, expressions running through. Put some pants on him. Pants 01. Yeah, some jeans. He's a rough man working on the farm, so jeans are appropriate. Some hat. No, okay, forget the hat. Not done yet. So put some. No. Shirt 1. No shirt, torso, and then put some boots on. Yep. So we have our guy. As you can see, like probably like if you compare it to the game, this one has a little bit more detail in, and with all the like shininess maps and like a normal maps and things like that, he should fit with the game nicely. A little bit better than the current increment. I'll show you some just quickly. Yeah. Wait. Move my light. I am old school 3D Max user. I need no shortcuts. So, Jesus, go back. Okay, stay there. Yep, so backpack, number 1. Backpack, come on, number 2. And then backpack number 3. So yeah, there's a bit of customization available even in the backpack department. And how are we doing? Ha! You said no belt. There's no belt. There will be belt. Oh yeah, let me. Yeah, people are picky on belts. Where's the belt? Ah, belt. Yes. Oh, it's black. It has no texture. Yeah, it's like the approach to the textures, because we wanted to make things tintable. Then we had to do textures in a particular way so people can change colors of like customize the color of all those things. But in order to do that, texture doesn't just work. It actually needs the game to make it work a little bit better. And I think Dennis, did we have enough? I guess, you know, like we've been running for 50 minutes now. That's enough for any man. But let me show you some up and coming bits that we're working on. First thing, we're working on huge pipes, 1 by 1 meter block pipes that will make piping stuff around in the game more fun. So yeah, like they're much simpler complexity wise. For regular pipes we had to design all these different elements because they're offset. They had to sit in like 1 by 1 meter block, but they're offset. So what we're trying to do with large pipes is they will actually fit 1 by 1 meter block, so we need less elements to build a, what is it called, pipeline, I guess. So these are the pipes. They have inlets and outlets, but we made them compatible with small pipes, so everyone actually has like inlet and outlet, so you can attach, you can run big pipe to the point and then attach small pipe to it and keep on building with small pipes. Hopefully that's fun and interesting. What else I want to show? Some up and coming assets. Yeah, I'll just pick a few. I'll show you some like a big stuff. So bam. At some point down the line, people said they really like the elevators, but they needed bigger elevators which will like move a lot bigger stuff throughout, you know, like in the game. So this is up and coming asset. It will probably not be in 0.9, but it's coming further down the line. When we release the game, you will have these gigantic elevators that can fit like mining vehicles and excavators, and you're like you can literally like load it with like stockpile or two of your stuff, and you know, and they will you know, like be able to move it up and down. One thing that we like, I was trying, it's really hard, like with block games, it's really hard to cater to every situation. So I also wanted this thing to be not just like mine shaft or interior building kind of elevator. I also wanted to figure out the way to fit it, like say on the edge of the cliff, and then have like elevator along, like what was it in Game of Thrones, and that big wall, you know, like so the elevator just drops down the side of the cliff. So it was, you know, like it was fairly hard to do considering everything else that would need to happen. So I talked to Keegan about it, and basically you will still be able to do it. You'll just have to build like a platform, like use the blocks to concrete the platform, like two sides running on the side of the cliff, plot this thing on top, and then you will have your side of the cliff elevator. Some other things talking about the up and coming things is, I'll just show you this one thing and then we'll wrap it up. Bam. Talking about water vehicular transportation. We did like an initial stage barge, which again you will be able to fit stockpile on, and clearly like this is a mechanical vessel. So as you can see, like it has the cranking mechanism, you know, and then you know, like it has ramps on both ends, so you can, you know, like drive it to the edge of the water, drop the ramps, load it up, lift the ramps, and then off you go across the water onto the other side. I'm also working on the bigger version of this, like more industrial, less wooden, more metally, kind of modern day barge. Another fun thing I thought, like with barges, is if you have enough resources to build a few of these, you can technically line them up next to each other and build like a little pontoon bridge out of these little elements. And I think we did like we went for too long and we did too much, so let's wrap it up here. Thank you everyone. Hopefully you like the stream, so we can repeat it some other time as well. I didn't stream much. I think I did one 2 years ago, so let's see how this one goes, and then I might repeat the experience at some point in the future. Thank you everyone for watching. Have a great morning, great sleep, whatever your situation is, and enjoy. Cheers.